Hi guys, welcome back aboard good old Athena. We arrived here in Trinidad last week and in 2 days we haul out. Now there are a couple of things we need to get sorted before we're ready to haul out. We need to remove our sails, we've already done that. We need to remove our spray hood, we need to pickle the water maker. We need to build some kind of adapter contraption so we can install an AC window unit so we can get out of the heat when we're working on the boat up on the hard. And, well, a bunch of other stuff.
My name is Mess, this is my wife Ava. I've spent the last 5 years on a somewhat extensive refit of our 1987 Warrior 38 named Athena. That was a DIY fun-packed adventure complete with a very extensive osmosis treatment, building a new rudder using vacuum infusion, rebuilding the entire deck, gutting and subsequently rebuilding most of the interior, painting the topsides, and a ton of other projects. The summer of 2021 we started cruising full time. Now we're finally ready to begin our adventure.
Let's start by pickling the water maker. Even though we've been using our water maker for 2 years now, we've never pickled it before. That's in part because we haven't left the boat for very long, but also because we have the optional auto flush system from Rain Man. Here inside of our head is the control panel for our Rain Man water maker, and down in the corner of the control panel is the only visual part of the auto flush system. Normally, if you don't use your water maker very regularly, you'll have to pickle the system to protect the expensive RO membranes. What the auto flush system does is delightfully simple. It is basically just a timer that every 7 days flushes your water maker with fresh water from your tank. The control panel and the auto flush systems are optional extras when you order a Rain Man system. You don't have to order them, but I highly recommend you do. The control panel makes using the water maker a lot easier, and the auto flush system makes sure that you don't have to run your water maker every few days to protect your expensive RO membranes. Once you have the auto flush system, there's only 2 things you need to think about. You need to have enough water in your tank to actually do the flushing, and also there is an activated carbon filter that protects the RO membranes from chlorine in case you get water from a marina every once in a while. Anywho, let's get to pickling. This is something I've been excited to try, but at the same time I'm happy it's not something I have to do on a regular basis. There are different chemicals you can use for pickling. In our case, I'll be using the food-grade sodium metabisulfate that came with the water maker. It needs to be mixed with water without any chlorine in it at a ratio of 10 liters of water to 3 scoops of powder. I gave this solution a quick stir and it looks like all the powder dissolved easily. In our shower, underneath the holding tank, I have access to a bunch of plumbing, including the 3-way valve that came with the water maker to make pickling easier. With the valve set to the pickling setting, I moved the bucket into the shower and stuck the hose in the bucket. Taking a quick second to think, I made sure that the needle valve was all the way open and that the pickling solution wasn't going to get directed to our water tank. With the water maker on, the bucket drained quickly. I made sure to stop the water maker before sucking any air into the system. I then turned off the power to the water maker to make sure we don't accidentally start it. That is the pickling done. That was fairly straightforward and very easy, especially with the 3-way valve here in the plumbing compartment. Our membranes should now be protected for up to 6 months. Now we're not going to be gone that long, but we are going to be gone longer than a month. And in that case, Rain Man recommends that you remove the pre-filter. And I've done that here. Now I'm going to clean this and the housing, get that back in place, and we should be all set. This is basically a brand new filter. We'll dry it out and then we can pop it back in when we put the boat back in the water. Now, while I was doing the pickling, things got a little bit messy out here. That's because the friendly local electrician swung by and made us an adapter doohickey so that we can connect to shore power here. And I thought I might have to reconfigure our isolation transformer to bump 110 volts up to 220, but with this plug we're actually getting 220, but at 60 Hertz. As you can see here on the little servo display, we are in fact getting 220 volts at 60 Hertz. Normally, of course, all of our electronics and stuff back in Europe are used to running on 50 Hertz. We've checked most of our electronic doohickeys and they don't seem to have an issue with the 60 Hertz. Even our induction cooktop seems to be working. The only thing that's not working is our oven. That is a little bit surprising, and I think maybe it's because it's a combination oven, so it has both a convection oven and a microwave in there. But yeah, even if we turn it to just regular convection mode, it pretends like it's going, like I can bring the temperature up, it shows that it's heating up, but yeah, nothing is getting warm. It's not the end of the world, because all we have to do to fix it is just disconnect temporarily from shore power to use the oven. As soon as the Quattro, the Victron Energy Quattro, is no longer tied to the grid, it'll go back to 50 Hertz, which is its default configuration in our case. So yeah, just a mild inconvenience. The electrician's timing was basically perfect, because yesterday, with the help of a very nice local man named Paul, thank you so much, Paul, Ava and I went to Peak's air conditioning store and picked up this 220 volt 60 Hertz AC window unit. Now this is rated at, I think, 12,000 BTU, and it should do a great job of keeping the boat cool once we go up on the hard. You might have noticed that the name of the marina is Peaks and the name of the air conditioning store is Peaks. And not only that, but next to the air conditioning store, there was a giant home goods store also named Peak. That's no coincidence. All those businesses are owned by the same family. So a bit of boating, way to stay nice and cool, and a home goods store. That seems about perfect to me. Being from Denmark, this is my first ever encounter with a window air conditioning unit. This is all very exciting, but the astute viewer might have noted that there are no fitting windows aboard Athena to install this thing, so we're gonna have to build a little plywood box. I grabbed a quick couple of measurements of the hatch to make sure the hood would fit over it. This hood is very much a temporary thing. The plan is to sell the $500 air conditioning unit when we leave, and there's no guarantee the new owner can reuse our hood. So let's not spend too much time building something that's perfect. Then it was time for a quick test fit before using a little bit of 5-minute epoxy to fill any gaps to keep the rain out. Getting the hood in and out of the boat was quite a tight puzzle, but it rained on and off all day, so building it outside was not really an option. To get a good seal against the deck, I decided to sacrifice 2 of our pool noodles and slid those over the bottom edges. And just like that, everything was in place and secured. I feel pretty confident that we won't get any rain inside of the boat with the hood in place and also with the tent stretched out over it. Of course, the AC unit came with this light grey US 220 volt plug. We don't have an adapter for that, but I do have a Danish plug we can use instead. Finally, to seal between the air conditioning unit and the hood, I used a little bit of air conditioning ducting. It looks a little bit improvised, but I think it'll do a good job. Good morning, guys. It is the morning after our first night of oh glorious air conditioning. And I can honestly say this is the first comfortable night's worth of sleep I've had in months. It is a perfect 22 degrees Celsius and around 60% humidity here inside of the boat. It's absolutely perfect. We're hauling out a little bit later today, and once we're up in the hard, I think the yard is going to charge us about $2 US per day for running the air conditioning. But $60 a month is perfectly fine with me, which means we can live in this sweet temperature controlled luxury. The boat is basically ready to haul out. We still need to remove our spray hood. We can do that right before leaving because it is nice that we don't get the rain right in the face when we open our companionway hatch. But yeah, I think we're ready to haul out. This is only my second ever encounter with a travel lift. They're not very common in Denmark, so I was excited to see the process. With Athena securely tied up, we waited for the boat in front of us to get pressure washed and removed from the travel lift. It only took about 20 minutes, and then the behemoth travel lift was ready for Athena. The yard guys slipped on protective plastic sleeves and seemed to take great care to not have these sleeves touch the ground. Not only that, but before tightening the slings, one of the yard guys jumped in the water with a mask and a snorkel to make sure the slings were positioned 100% correctly. It didn't take long before the slings were tightened, and Athena yet again, although be it very slowly, took to the skies. At first glance, I was very pleased by the lack of growth below the waterline. There were a bunch of little shrimps holding on for dear life and some red plant stuff, but only a few barnacles. As a part of the haul out, we opted for the optional power washing. This power washer looks like it could put something into orbit if it got the chance. And after about 10 minutes, the hull was squeaky clean. Athena then got transferred to the boat moving doohickey. I'm assuming the yard uses this thing because the travel lift is so much wider, and with this thing they're able to squeeze in more boats. The pressure washer guy then diligently cleaned the hull where the straps from the travel lift had previously prevented access. Seeing Athena among all the big 50 to 60 foot boats, she seemed rather tiny as she moved to the far corner of the yard. The yard is crammed full as it is the middle of hurricane season, but luckily there was an Athena-shaped hole waiting to be filled. The last step was to secure the boat using jack stands. These are also very uncommon in Denmark, and to be honest, to me a cradle does feel more secure, but I can see how the jack stands are more flexible for the yard. Ta-da! Here is Athena yet again firmly planted on terra firma. The hull looks absolutely perfect. There are no signs of blistering, so I'd say our osmosis treatment was definitely effective. There are only a couple of things on the hull that look a little meh. One of those are our two Vetus through hulls for the exhaust here. Those are rusting really badly. It looks pretty horrible. I might see if I can replace them with something else when we get back. The other thing I'm not super pleased about with the hull is the little bit of growth we got here above the copper coat. It's just from the boat sitting in rocky anchorages, so this area gets wet all the time and then we get a bit of growth, but hopefully we can also raise the waterline a little bit. We're almost ready to leave the boat, but there is one project I would like to take care of before we leave, so it's ready for when we come back. And that's the companionway doors. We made these companionway doors back in the UK in James' amazing workshop, and the only reason we haven't really started using them yet is because we don't have a way to lock them from the outside. We have this little latch here that we can use from the inside, but when you're leaving the boat, well, there's no way of locking them. Fortunately, when we were in Portugal, we found the first piece of the equation. That was this mechanism right here that'll allow us to lock the boat from the outside and from the inside. That'll be really nice. In Portugal, we also found a door handle that fits this mechanism, but this thing came without a striker plate. Yesterday, a local machine shop banged out a little striker plate for us. This thing was, I think, 300 TT, which is about $40 US. That makes it a pretty expensive striker plate, but it is 100% custom made and in 316 stainless steel. And it is a beautiful fit. This is absolutely perfect. The installation shouldn't be too difficult, but it all hinges on being somewhat precise and of course not messing it up. With the old barrel bolt removed, I grabbed a couple of quick measurements to get the mechanism aligned correctly. This was a critical step, so I made a little drawing to double check my measurements and help visualize the problem. Confident in my measurements, I took a deep breath and drilled a 22mm hole for the lock cylinder. The back of the mechanism has a little metal lip that needs to be recessed into the wooden frame. This is one of my favorite things about boat work. You get to challenge yourself and gain confidence by learning new skills. Fortunately, the fit turned out 100% perfect, so I won't have to be reminded of a horrible failure every time I open or close the door. I marked the hole for the door handle and drilled a slightly oversized 12mm hole. Then I could secure the mechanism with 4 screws and proceed to install the door handle. This is the only door handle we could find that would fit. Hopefully we'll find a nicer looking one at some point. The last step was to install the little trim ring around the lock cylinder. Then there was just the small matter of installing the striker plate on the companionway hatch. For extra style points and easier operation, I recessed the plate into the wood so it was flush with the surface. It was time for the first test fit, and the door was absolutely perfect. I am really pleased with how this turned out. This is gonna be awesome. Now that we have air conditioning inside the boat, it's really nice to be able to easily close and open the doors when they're coming and going. And well, it doesn't get much easier than this. Of course, you'll all have noticed the horribly unfinished inside of the companionway hatch up here, but that is on the list for when we return back to Athena. There's a bunch of different stuff on our to-do list when we return to Athena, anything from putting in a new through hull to maybe raising the waterline to dealing with a little bit of a remodel in the galley. Yesterday I removed the countertop there because we had some water seep in under our undermounted sink, and that had caused the countertop to warp. So when we get back to Trinidad, we're going to be countertop and sink shopping in Trinidad, which I'm really looking forward to. Fortunately, there wasn't any severe damage to the galley. It was just a countertop that started buckling a little bit, so it should be a relatively easy fix. We still have a fair amount of tidying up and packing to do before we're ready to leave tomorrow morning early, but there will be a video next Sunday, and it will be boat DIY related. So yeah.
What boat and what DIY and where, we don't know, but it'll be there.
Yes. So yeah, we hope to see all of you guys back here aboard, not aboard Athena, but on the YouTube channel for more boat-related stuff. So yeah.
It's very exciting.
As always, feel free to leave a comment down below, and don't forget, if you've enjoyed this video,
Please remember to leave a like.
see you!